So for an ability for folks to go back and watch, so at this time, could we please begin the recording? Very nice. Good evening, Viking parents, students, and families, most specifically the class of 2024, soon to be Vikings. Welcome to this evening. We welcome you to our Lake Stevens High School sophomore registration webinar, which will include a question and answer session at the end of this evening. On behalf of Lake Stevens High School and our Caballero teams, we are delighted that you're a part of our amazing learning community. And we are excited to be planning with you as we begin the registration process and the transition from being Colt strong to Viking relentless. Our purpose this evening, folks, is an overview forum to offer insight and details to be hopefully as helpful as possible as it relates to high school registration. And yes, can you believe it? For the 2021-2022 school year. Who would think that we'd be still sitting in February preparing for next year? But we're pretty excited to be doing that. And as busy as it's been, our counselors have had a truly enjoying have been enjoying their time truly the last couple of weeks as they've been working through registration. Today specifically, getting to spend it with your freshmen, our soon-to-be sophomores, preparing for next year. It reminded us what it's like to be with kids again, right, counseling team? So we'd like to start tonight by presenting some information that we feel is going to be helpful to all of our attendees, especially our students, but also our parents and families who are working to support your soon-to-be Viking. To make sure that we're attending to all of the questions, we are going to present information at the start, and then we will answer questions in both a live and written format at the end. And don't worry, we will prompt you when to begin entering those questions. Please don't do that during the presentation, as our hope is that we're going to give you the broad scope and answer many of the questions that you might have. We are going to start with our counselors sharing that very important information. And so that would be the perfect time to write down some of the questions that you might have. So if you don't, grab a little notepad or your cell phone to be able to text yourself to remind you what was that question. And if it doesn't get answered, then we'll make sure to come back to it in the Q&A portion. We do again anticipate that we'll be answering many of the questions during the presentation. But again, if you don't find that something gets answered, we'll give you that chance to put it in the Q&A when prompted. Before I go into the logistics any further, it's a perfect opportunity for us just to pause as a moment and to recognize that on the panel tonight, we have several of our team members. And I am going to let them introduce themselves and their role. And so I would like you to join me virtually in welcoming and thanking our friends for being here tonight. Let's start with Miss Deb Hay.
Good evening, I'm Deborah Hay. I'm one of the associate principals here. I work directly with the special education department and the math department. And then the two counselors I work with the most is Miss Ribley and Miss Chilson. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you, Miss Hay. All right, Miss Chilson.
Hi, I'm Emily Chilson. I work with students who have the last name starting in D through H. And I also help a lot of students with AP questions, College Board questions, and also NCAA. Thank you.
Very good. And again, reminding you, this will be on our website recorded, and also these roles that you're hearing, it's just fun to hear them introduced, but it is also can be found on our website. Mr. Tidor.
Hey, good evening, everybody. My name is Dan Tidor. I am the Career and Technical Education Director. I have the privilege of overseeing programs such as culinary and manufacturing, video production, and lots more.
Thank you. Sel.
Good evening. I'm Mr. Tel Hernandez. I'm one of the counselors here. The students that are under my alpha are with the letters started N through SK. And I am also the Running Start Coordinator for Lake Stevens High School.
Thank you. Miss Ribley.
Hi, I'm Angela Ribley, and I am one of the counselors. My alphabet is A through C, so if your last name starts with A through C, I'll be your counselor. And I also oversee the Snow Owl program and our world language testing program. Probably
And the
some other
dog
things.
in the background's name is what, Miss Ribley?
That's Max, and he's very upset with me right now because I won't let him in.
Thank you for introducing Max. Miss Nikes.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kim Nikes, and I'm the Dean of Students.
Thank you. Miss Lewis.
Good evening. I'm Stephanie Lewis. I work with students last name SL through Z, so I have the very end of the alphabet.
Thank you. Miss Fankhauser.
Hi, Michelle Fankhauser. I'm an English teacher here at the high school, here tonight as support, but also to let you know that on Thursday night, Mr. Alderson and I will be offering options night with information on how your student can earn college credit while here at the high school. So we hope that many of you join us there.
Very good. Thank you. Miss Grindy.
Good evening. My name is Tanya Grindy. I am also one of the associate principals, and I work with the middle of the alphabet, letters H through O, last name, letters H through O. I also work with the English department and oversee assessment and community service.
Thank you. Mr. Alderson.
Hi guys, Dan Alderson, one of the associate principals. I work with kids last names P through Z. I get to work with the social studies department and mostly with Mr. Hernandez and Miss Lewis. I also work with the AP college and high school programs here at the school. Great to be here.
Thank you. Miss LaFortune.
Hi, my name is Kim LaFortune, and I'm the career specialist here at the high school, and I help your students with anything that they want to do after graduation, be that joining the military, community college, technical colleges, four-year universities, scholarships, financial aid, different things like that.
Thank you, Kim. And you, Miss Amy?
Hi, my name is Amy Wickland. I'm one of the last counselors of the crowd. I'm the middle child here. Your students for me are I through M. And so we rock out the middle of the alphabet together.
Very nice. Thank you. And Mr. Pearson, last but definitely not least.
Yeah, I'm Jason Pearson, Associate Principal, Athletic Director here at the high school. I oversee ASB and activities. I also oversee the PE department, the Fine Arts department, and the World Language department.
Very good. And so our counselors will be doing the main presentation this evening, but you can see that our Viking team comes really strong. We're here to support each other, and we wanted you to be able to see our faces. My name is Leslie Ivilia, and I get to be the proud principal of this team here and get to work with all of your students. I do get the opportunity to work with the science department specifically and just working to figure out how to make this ship sail. So we work on that together regularly, and tonight we're again excited to be with you. I want to thank you, team, and recognize again that we're going to be outlining some details here in just a moment, and we will be sharing a screen in just a moment. So I just want you folks to know at home, if you're not used to working with all of the technology and moving things around, when we're sharing, if you find that your screen on the screen, your information gets covered, you can actually pick the picture up and move it around and drag the image so that you can make sure that the information being shared is more visible. Again, we'll make sure that this information is also available to you on our website, and you can always email us if we need to send a link. We're more than happy to do that. So again, tonight is an opportunity for us to answer kind of the global questions as it relates to registration. We know that this can be a time that's overwhelming and yet very exciting, and we know that you are wanting to get it right. So if your student has individual questions, please know that it's probably most important for them to answer that around their specific schedule if you work directly with the school counselor. They will be back together again with your kids on Wednesday, February 24th, either at 9:40 or 11:40. Again, our counseling team will be available for help, and they will answer questions at that time. We don't want to make it sound like we're not available in other times, but during this world, it's very busy, and we want to make sure that we're here to help you, but recognize this is not the end all be all. We can definitely make adjustments if we need to accommodate and help you during that time. So again, February 24th, and then you can also recognize that reaching out to your current counselor at Caballero is still an appropriate measure. Mr. Radford for the A through G with the GO, and Ms. Reeves with GR2O, or Ms. Thomas P through Z. So again, we're going to outline the information in a broad overview, and then at the end, we will answer details as it relates in our question and answer. So without further ado, we want to get started, and I think I'm handing it over to you, Mr. Hernandez. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Again, good evening, people out there in the virtual world. So tonight, welcome to sophomore registration for the 2021-2022 school year. Next slide, please. You already met all of us, the counselors, meet the counselors. We have some wonderful pictures of us here again for you guys to see, the letter and the alphabet letters are in there. If you need to refer back to, they will be available once we post the presentation online. So what are we going to cover tonight? There are 4 steps that we share with your students this morning in order to complete the registration process. The first step is going to be to review the LSHS graduation requirements so that they have a good idea what it takes to graduate from high school. Step 2 is going to be to determine what credits they still need. And we're going to talk about, needs versus wants. Number 3 is going to be to, we told them to update their high school and beyond plan, which this document is, they go and update it every year, each year. Step 4 is going to be the last one, one of the most important ones this evening, is going to be to register for the appropriate classes on both the Google form and in Skyward. Once again, remember the deadline for registration is Friday, February 26th.
Very good. And before the next counselor goes, I just want to let you folks know that, again, we're recording it and we'll post it, but this is always an appropriate time that if you see a slide, you want to kind of catch that information. It's always appropriate to take a quick screenshot using your cell phone if that helps. Go ahead. Thank you, Ms. Ribley.
Yeah, thanks. And Emily, do you mind if I share my screen for the next 2 slides, or will that be too cumbersome? Because I have larger versions of them. Awesome, thank you. Okay. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about graduation requirements, and I just wanted to zoom in so we could all see this. Students need 4 years of English or 4 credits of English to graduate from Lake Stevens High School. So that's English every single year until you graduate. Even students who started in the 8th grade with Challenge English, we encourage them to take English through their senior year and just take more English instead of stopping early. For social studies, students will need 3 credits. So what that looks like is in 10th grade, students will take AP Euro or Modern World History. That's the sophomore social studies. Junior year, it looks like US History or AP US History. And senior year, it looks like Contemporary World Issues and Civics or AP Gov. So you'll notice we have an AP option at every grade level and a general education option that meets that grade year requirement. A lot of questions about that pre-AP World History that some students are taking as an elective in 9th grade. That doesn't count for one of the social studies graduation requirements, but it does count as an elective, a general elective. Moving on, we have 3 years or 3 credits of math for most students. That will look like algebra in 9th grade, geometry in 10th grade, and algebra 2 in 11th grade. Students who are headed to college or more education on any level after high school are encouraged to take a 4th year of math. Students headed to a 4-year university, you really need to take math your senior year. So for most students, that will look like pre-calculus, and we'll work with students to find the best fit for math senior year. 3 years of science, or 3 credits of science. Again, freshman year, that looks like physical science. Sophomore year, that looks like either CCP, which is conceptual chemistry and physics, or chemistry. And then junior year, that's biology. We recognize that some students are on a more accelerated path and may be in biology this year, and they should plan on taking chemistry. We'll break that down more when we talk about the Google registration form. It does outline what those options are at each step. As for the conceptual chemistry and physics versus chemistry itself, those are 2 different classes. CCP is the 10th grade science. Chemistry can be a 10th grade science if students showed really strong success in math and science freshman year. If that's the case, we'd love to welcome them into chemistry their sophomore year. Otherwise, students who aren't sure of their science capabilities or math capabilities, they should probably plan on taking CCP. Please know that universities and colleges will view these classes, CCP and chemistry, pretty equally. And then moving on from science, we have health and fitness, 2 credits. Freshmen right now in 9th grade are working on 0.5 health and 0.5 PE. By the time they come up to the high school, usually they are on the hook for another 1.0 of PE or 2 semesters of PE. We have a lot of different PE classes to suit every need, every capability, and really every interest. So we hope you take a look at that in the course handbook. And then 1 credit in career technical education, or CTE. These are your hands-on classes that Mr. Tidor talked about, your culinary, business, computers, video production, that kind of stuff. You need 1 credit or 1 year of that. And then looking at the 2 arts and 2 world languages, I'm going to zoom in again, and we're going to take a closer look at that, because you'll notice it says 2 arts in blue and 2 world language in blue, or you could do 1 fine art and 3 PPRs. At the end of the day, world language is also a PPR, right? PPR stands for Personal Pathway Requirements, and that's highlighted over here in the green box if you want to look at that later. It's basically any elective class that is aligned with a student's beyond high school plan. So you could take 1 year of fine art, and your 3 PPRs could be world language or world language and an extra math if you're going on to university. It could look like snow owl credits if that's your plan. It could look like more PE credits if you're planning on going in the military or something, you want to get ready for boot camp. So those PPR credits can really be anything. And I just really want to be clear that you really only need 1 fine art. 2 is welcome, but 1 will get it done for graduation. And then on the next slide, I had graduation requirements. So now that we've gone over what the graduation requirements are, let's talk about how you can find out if your student is on track and what they might need. So we went over this today with all the sophomores, or freshmen, soon to be sophomores. And this is what you see in Skyward when you log into Family Access and you look at graduation requirements. If you click on that, you should see a table that looks very much like this one. It has the same headings as all the requirements we just reviewed, and it talks about how many credits are required, what's been completed, what might be in progress, and then what we're asking students to look for over here is what is remaining. Because as we go through this process each year, this will be the column here that students really want to be mindful of when they're picking their courses, to see what credit requirements they still have to earn. Thank you, Emily. I think I'm going to turn it over now to Amy, and she'll talk to you about the course planner. It's a beautiful online website for you.
Yes, so we also went over with your students to finding out what they need to take, what some of their options are, and how to find those options. And so if Emily, will you let me share my screen, and I will pull up the course book for them to see. So we went over with your students today through how to find all the classes they might want. And so here's our course planning guide. It's now a website, which I think they're a little bit accustomed to, because I think this is how they did it at CAV last year when we went out of school. But when you go to our planning site, we've got some announcements and some things on there, and also how to find your counselor again, just in case you forgot our letters. It also gives them registration information. So everything we're saying here will be on this site. If you go to incoming 10th grade registration, you'll see that we've got the slideshow we're going through, plus an example of the Google form your students will need to fill out. So once they've kind of picked out what they need to graduate, they'll go in and put in their courses into this Google form. And then if you keep going, you'll see that there's also other announcements. So this is kind of our announcement page. The important thing for the kids I said today was course descriptions. So if you go to the course descriptions tab, it gives every class that Lake Stevens High School offers. And so the cool part is I let them know that when you click on these courses, you can choose certain pathways if you so choose. You can go through and read the prerequisites and what grade level these classes are offered to. And especially for the incoming sophomores, we have some videos from the classes and the teachers that give them a view into the class to see if that's something they want to take. So I was very clear with them to take some time and dork around this website so you can see what what we have to offer. There's also a lot of other resources on this website as well. Graduation requirement information and community service information is here as well. So this is kind of your go-to page. All the kids were linked to this page today to work this week. It's also on the school website as well. So should be able to find that. So I will stop sharing that. And you can pull the slideshow back up, Emily. So graduation requirements, slide number 7. There, beyond all those requirements Mrs. Ridley talked about, you have non-credit requirements as well. And so beyond the 24 credits and all those requirement areas, you have some extra stuff to do. So the next slide tells us what those are. One of them is Washington State history. That is something your student did in 8th grade. And so that should be checked off for most all students. The next is community service. Your student is required 45 hours of community service to graduate. And there are links on our planning website to the forms to get more information about community service. We also have kids complete a graduation pathway, meaning they either have met the pathway by taking a state test and passing it, and or some other options that I'll outline on the next slide. We also ask them to do the high school and beyond plan. We have 4 components that we kind of check off for them, and these are plans that they've already started at Cavallero, so they're not new to them, which is kind of nice. The next tells you those important information, just kind of lays it out for you. The completed graduation pathway is kind of an interesting one. The standard to meet is to pass our SBA test, which is our state test. We are well aware that the kids haven't taken it yet, so that's something we're working on. The other ways, like if you didn't pass the state test, you have other ways to meet that, such as passing the ASVAB test and or completing 2 credits in the same CTE pathway in order to meet this pathway requirement. I'll go ahead and let Mr. Tidor speak for a moment about the CTE pathways. There's a lot of cool options there, and it might be something that we utilize quite a bit in the next few years due to COVID and testing.
Awesome. Thank you, Amy. For CTE graduation pathway, as she said, it's 2 credits within the same program area. So if you were to go back to that planning guide, you would see that we have our courses through career and technical education separated out by program area. Now, this is a really great opportunity for students, for those students who are really looking at a career pathway, or at least gaining those skills, both hard and soft skills in that particular area. So for example, if a student really wanted to be a chef or work in a restaurant as an adult, we have a pathway through culinary. So we have a culinary 1 course and a culinary 2 course, a full 2 years of culinary instruction, which not only earns them dual credit, college credit through career and technical education, but it also offers industry recognized credentials. So students are able to walk directly into the workforce after these courses. So definitely some great opportunities in career and technical education to align to a student's pathway of what they want to do after high school.
Thank you, Mr. Tidor. The next slide shows what in the high school and beyond plan we are looking for from kids. There are some profile questions, some career goals, some post-high school plans. There are 4-year plan for their courses at Lake Stevens High School, and we also ask them to upload a resume. That's something that a lot of them will do in certain courses as they go through the high school. If that's not the case, we will work with them to help them have a resume so that when they do get to the end of high school, they have something to show scholarships, job opportunities, even college. So it will help them be prepared once they are ready to exit our doors. The next slide is all about registration, and I believe I get to hand it to Mrs. Chilson.
Yes, thank you. So step 4 is where students will enter their requests into Skyward. So Ms. Wicklund showed you the Google form, and we can also add that link here in a bit to the chat. But the Google form is a really great place if they're not sure what to sign up for next. We talked about it, today, and of course we've said it in our webinar, but the planning guide is one place, the Google form is another to help really guide them into the correct choices. So I really encourage my students to have the Google form open and Skyward open. And I know that can be kind of tough on a small Google Chromebook screen, but we ask that they're looking at both of those if possible. So when students log into Skyward, they will click on Schedule. And then towards the top right of their screen, they will click on Course Request 2021-2022, and they'll start adding their classes. This is really where the planning guide may really help them, because they will have to put in the course code. Those are all on the planning guide. So as students are picking choices, the course codes are also in the Google form, but they may have some trouble finding those. Just go back to the planning guide, locate the class, and you can start entering it in there. So for most students, they're going to have 6 credits total. If they have questions about that, or if they are getting a little confused, or if it's maybe worth more due to certain classes, we don't want them to worry too much. Just ask that either their current counselor or us, and we can check on that or help them out if something is maybe it doesn't seem to be working for them, or if they have a question about it. We also ask students to please choose some alternates. This is super important because the alternates will give choices. The schedule in many ways is like a puzzle, and sometimes students may not be able to get their first request, especially for some of the elective choices. So if they have some alternates, then we can give them their second best choice. If they don't put any alternates, and if their schedule doesn't fit together, or if some of the courses that they requested are filled with upperclassmen, or whatever, then we can give them something that they want, instead of us just filling in something that we choose for them randomly. So please make sure that you are entering not just your course requests, but also alternates, which is on the same screen. Many students panic about this, but when they're done entering their requests, it feels wrong, but it is correct. All they have to do is click on the X. So they X out of it and they are done. I promise it will save, and they will be able to see their requests. As Mrs. Idalia said, we are used to having to make adjustments and to work on this. So if your student, or if you are the student who makes a decision for a course request, but you change your mind, please just contact either your current counselor or us, and we're happy to help you. So this is an example of what it could look like on the right side of the screen. And also, we asked everyone to fill out a Google form. The Google form is going to be really important because a lot of students, especially if they haven't had as much practice entering their requests into Skyward, they might not enter all of their requests correctly. And sometimes it can be a little bit confusing. And so when we go and look at their schedules, we don't always know exactly what they were really hoping for, if maybe they made an error, or if they didn't save it, or who knows. So the Google form is our backup. In the past, for registration, we used to have a piece of paper that they filled out, and then we collected that piece of paper with a parent signature on it. The Google form is also a replacement for that, so that we know that students did talk about it with the adults in their family, and that you guys are all on the same page, so that we can help you achieve your goals. So I believe the next slide is Mrs. Lewis. This is just a reminder about doing both the Google form and also Skyward. And as we said, the deadline is the 26th, this Friday at 3 p.m. But if your student did not enter their requests, we can do it for them. They will just have to contact either their current counselor or us for help with that.
All right, thank you, Ms. Chilson. We are coming to the end of the presentation part of this evening. I know that we threw a lot of information at you guys tonight. It often feels really overwhelming, especially when we're in this virtual format where, we can't even get feedback from the crowd. We're just kind of talking at our computer screens. It's easy to zone out. So do please remember, we've recorded this presentation. You and your student can go back onto the registration website where all of that awesome information is and view this at any time. If you just want to look at the slideshow, we have that on there. You want to click through and find a certain slide, maybe that credit slide that Ms. Ribley showed, that's all there. If you have questions, you know, we definitely encourage you to try and work with your CAV counselor, but we're here and available as well. Just a little note that counselors are crazy busy during registration time. Our email volume like skyrockets. So I know, like for me, I'm typically pretty good about getting an email turned around in 24 hours. But just this week, I'm noticing it's taking me sometimes a little bit more. It's just because we're meeting with your students, we're trying to work out schedules with them, and we will get to those as quickly as possible. We wrapped this part up with your students today by reminding them that counselors are going to be available on Wednesday during 4th and 5th period for your students to choose one of those two if they had questions to log back in and chat with us. So we really encourage them to use this evening and tomorrow to start looking through the course description guide, to start planning themselves a little bit, sort of give it a shot on their own at first, and then come join us on Wednesday. We're happy to sort of clarify stuff with them, check that out, make sure they're on the right page, and answer any questions that they have.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lewis. And I think it's really important to note that we've set everything up for them to be hopefully as successful as possible. But as she shared, we are here to make sure that we are available to answer questions. Tonight is the opportunity for us to continue down that path. And so we're going to use a Q&A session to do that. If you look at the bottom of your screen, there's two little bubbles that say Q&A. And if you click into this, it's separate. It should be to the left of the chat. This button will allow you to input questions that you might have. Again, I'm going to ask that we try to be cognizant that we're asking global questions, but some of your global or some of your individual kinds of questions might be helpful to the entire group here. Recognizing that we're going to use two methods to answer. So our team is going to share this responsibility, and we will answer some of the questions, hopefully most all of the questions live, because we believe that everyone could benefit from hearing. So I'm going to pause just for a moment and give you an opportunity to think back. What were the questions that you thought you might have during the presentation? And then go ahead and put them in the Q&A, and we will start going through a process to answer them. Some of them, if they're specific, we might answer them just in a written format, but we'll do our best to make sure that everyone gets the benefit, and I'll read them out loud so you can know which question we're answering. So I'll give you just a moment. And again, as Ms. Lewis said, it feels like we're talking at you. We really are working to talk with you. And this is the portion where we get to specialize by making this more unique and individual to the people that are asking. So I'm going to start with the very first question, and thank you for asking. How do parents view their child's high school and beyond plan? Ms. LaFortune, do you want to speak to that one?
I can do that. If you mean how do you log in with them, if you go to our schools, I'm not sure how you find it on CAVS, but at our high school, if you go to our website and you click on the parents and students and then scroll down to H for high school and beyond, your student will just log on with their Skyward information, and then you should be able to see all of it.
Thank you. Ms. Nikes, I know it's a different district, but you're a parent. Did you have anything to add to that? It looks like you were going to contribute to that question, no? All right, very good. Any others additions to that question? All right, perfect. Thank you. All right, the next question is the SAT going away? Ms. Chilson, could you please help us speak to that question? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you do any researching with any colleges, you will often see the words test optional. So for example, there are some colleges that have said that we will not require the SAT or ACT for all future years. Some, it is a temporary measure due to the challenges that are in place right now for students who are hoping to go to four-year universities and take the SAT, ACT. So I would just keep checking in about that, because we can't answer for sure about the class of 2024. We expect that some will bring that back. UW and some other colleges, for example, will take students' current SAT scores or ACT scores, but it's not required. So a lot of colleges are similar or the same as that policy. So I guess please check back in. We wouldn't be surprised though if SAT is not as important in the future as it has been in the past.
Thank you so much, Ms. Chilson, and thank you for the question. We have two questions that I'm going to go ahead and let Mr. Pearson speak to, and I'm going to read them both. But can you waive PE by playing a school sport, or can sports waive PE credits? I thank you for that, Mr. Pearson.
Yeah, great questions. Yes, school sports, we have a few different options to waive PE at the high school. A couple of things that I need to make sure everybody understands. Those applications are, you can only apply when you're junior year, so it's nothing that you can need to worry about for the next couple of years, but I strongly suggest that you work with your counselor if that is something you're leaning to. And then, like I said, it's an application process. You have to meet specific criteria, and then we actually have some alternative assignments that go with that PE waiver to earn those credits and those kind of things. So, yep, work with your individual PE teacher, and like I said, that is an application that you can only a junior or senior can do.
And one thing that's important to note, and maybe it's a little bit repetitive, Mr. Pearson, but waiving PE credits isn't the first course of action. We want to make sure that they're working with their counselor to determine if it's the appropriate course of action for their academic schedule. The next question, thank you so much. And again, you can continue adding them as they come to mind. Can my student take a foreign language and band class next year? Ms. Wickland, would you mind speaking to that?
Sure. Yes, they can. So if you have a band student who also wants to get their foreign language either started or completed, those would be their two elective choices next year. So they'll have English, history, math, and science, and their last two choices would be language and band. What that means for them is that their PE credit is something they'll have to do later. Their potential CTE credit is something they would do later. So you're just putting it off to maybe the junior or senior year to take advantage of band and language during your 10th grade year.
Very good. Thank you so much. And again, for those of you that are still with us, we have scheduled to be with you till at least 7. And this portion of our evening is really to be answering questions. So as you think of them, please let us know. And I've got a couple statements I'll also make. But the next one is Ms. Ribley was going to speak to. We completed the high school plan last year. One of the engineering classes dropped off when we looked at it today. When we tried to add it back to the plan, almost all of the engineering classes weren't available. How do we get this fixed, or are engineering classes being removed? Ms. Ribley?
Thanks. So this, and then along with, I think I said I'll address this question. It was a couple questions down about the high school and beyond plan and the options to put, to select classes for your 4-year plan and update. Yes, we are aware that classes in the high school and beyond plan don't necessarily match the classes in our course handbook. It's something we're working on. Some of the things we can change, some of the things we can't. For students in Running Start, they kind of just have to make it up what they're doing in Running Start. We don't have like Running Start classes as part of the high school and beyond plan to choose from. So that's that piece of it. The other piece of it, when you're looking at your high school and beyond plan and Skyward, sometimes you might see classes like your engineering classes that were listed under CTE or under science. Some of them were defaulting to science, and we didn't want them to default to science because we wanted the other science classes to go there. So we had to change how that, like principles of engineering, got sifted into the grad recs table. So it was more of a technical, clerical thing. I assure you that any class your student took for high school credit still lives in Skyward somewhere. If you're confused about where that landed and where that got shuffled, I did get a couple questions from sophomores today. They're like, wait, I had this class as a fine art and it went away. And we can fix those things on our end. Just contact your counselor either at Cavallero or when you get up to the high school. We can work with you on that, but I wouldn't hang too much stress on the 4-year plan and the high school, the 4-year update and the high school and beyond plan. Do the best you can with what you got. That's the best answer I can give you.
And I think one of the best things to celebrate today is that our sophomore families, our students were really active in recognizing that they were already beginning the work, and they said, hey, you forgot to invite our parents to the webinar tonight. That's actually a really strong skill set for those kids, being advocates for themselves. And so as you hear Ms. Ribley sharing, we recognize that you might have questions, and we're really glad that your kids are out there figuring it out, and we want to be able to partner with you in doing that. One of the other questions that Ms. Ribley said she'd speak to is, what are the minimum requirements for math and foreign language for a student on an IEP? Ms. Ribley?
So I would refer you to the Core 24 handout. It's one of the initial slides in our presentation. It's that one with all the different colors that I showed. We also have that linked on our website and in the course planner. That explains how you can negotiate those credits that say world language for graduation. Those can be any credits. So for a student, for example, a student on an IEP who maybe isn't at a place where they're ready to access a second language. I myself am still trying to master the English language, so trying a second language is always going to be the best plan for me. Or students who are working at certain levels in math according to their IEP. Students do not need a world language for graduation. There is no world language requirement. It can be a different requirement. You can do different electives instead of the world language. That is totally okay. And then as far as math on an IEP, we are obligated to serve students in their goal areas. So if this is a student that has goals in math, then we're obligated to serve them in math until they no longer need that goal, or whether it's an English goal. So for that reason, whether students meet their credit requirement or not, if they're on an IEP, we're not just looking at credit requirements, we're also looking at IEP goals. Deb, did I get it all?
Thank you so much. I do have a couple other questions. I'm going to give you a chance to pause again before we lose too many of our participants. We hope that you'll stay with us and learn kind of by lurking or asking questions. But if for some reason you feel like you are done this evening, just want to make sure I remind you that the online registration, I think Ms. Chilson shared earlier, is due Friday the 26th at 3 p.m. So at the end of the student day, your students should have added their course request in Skyward and submitted their Google form registration. So please make sure that you're working alongside them, live in the course handbook, figure out kind of, as we've talked, the pathway that you're hoping your son or daughter will be able to advocate for themselves moving through the next couple of years of high school. Have a great question here. Does PE fall under the health and fitness category? So my 9th grader already did PE and health for a semester this year. Does that mean she has 1.5 credits left, AKA 1.5 years left? I apologize. Someone said they would answer that and it went away before I could see. Thank you, Ms. Lewis.
Yeah, so for your first question there, does PE fall under health and fitness? Yes, PE does fall under the health and fitness category. The way that health and fitness category is broken down is that it's 2.0 credits total. Students need 0.5 credit of health and 1.5 credits of PE. So if your 9th grader is taking health for one semester this year and PE for one semester this year, that checks off the health piece and 0.5 of that PE requirement. So what they would have left is 1.0 credits remaining for PE, or 2 semester classes.
Thank you so much. A lot of great questions around high school and beyond plan, and we recognize that this is a place that feels like, oh my gosh, I got to get it done. And I really appreciate that your students and yourselves are working to hit deadlines. The high school and beyond plan is intended to be somewhat fluid. It's a plan for you to be able to plan forward to make sure that you're not missing out on the course requirements. Ms. LaFortune, I don't know if you want to add to this, but also Ms. Wickland said she would answer. My high school and beyond plan is only allowing my student to add classes from Caballero, but not from the high school. Ms. Wickland, can you tell us what we need to do?
I know that your Caballero counselors and the teachers that are having the high school and beyond plan in their classrooms are working on some glitches that came along with the high school and beyond plan. So I wouldn't worry too greatly about it at this moment. I know that the counselors are working on it. I would reach out to the Caballero counselors or teachers that your student has that are working on the high school and beyond plan, and see if they have an end in sight for the glitch that was going on within their high school and beyond plan.
And Ms. LaFortune, you want to add anything to that?
I would like to let you guys know that I do work with, especially 10th grade year when they come up. If your student is in an English 10 class, I will work with them on their high school and beyond plan. We do a big career unit. We do career preference quizzes. We do different things like that we will save. And I go back into their high school and beyond plan, teaching them how to upload items in there, making sure they have all the things answered. And then junior year, we'll touch base with them on that as well. And the same thing senior year. So it is definitely a working document and nothing that has to be complete right away. We are always working on it for sure.
Thank you. And the next question, Mr. Hernandez, if during the summer we find that we need to make adjustments to my high school and beyond plan, is it possible to change?
Thank you. I think you guys have answered this question already, so it's kind of easy for me to answer it. But so it is a yes. Mrs. LaFortune already touched on it, and most of the people here have also mentioned something about it. It is, I would call it a virtual moving document, if you would. So you guys, your students going to update it every year. And as Mrs. Kim LaFortune said, they will meet with her during an English 10 class. So they will have plenty of opportunities to update, change it, and add to it, take away. So yes.
It's kind of like asking your kid as a freshman in high school what they want to do for the rest of their lives. You know, we expect that that's going to change. I know in working with my son as a senior who was ready to graduate, he got tired of people asking, so what are you going to do when you grow up? And he says, I'm not quite ready to grow up yet. Don't worry, he's figuring this world out just fine. So the next statement or question is, if we add our classes today, can we make changes up until Friday at 3 p.m., Ms. Chilson?
Okay, volunteered to answer that, but I need a thumbs up from Ms. Wickland. They can delete still, yes? Okay, thank you so much. Yes, add your requests, and then if you need to go back and delete, you certainly can. Now on Friday, you will no longer have the ability to add or change it, but we do have of course, the ability to do that. And similar to like the high school and beyond plan, our schedule is living, breathing, and sometimes changing. And so we will, do our best to look at your alternates. And if we have to make changes, sometimes we will, be able to reach out to you. But if you do need to make a change after Friday, you need to contact your current counselor or us.
Thank you, Ms. Chilson. And it seems as though we're either doing a wonderful job or you just don't have very many questions. I do want to speak to a couple things as you are working hard in this virtual distance learning model. One of the best things you could do for your freshmen Colts is making sure that they're actively engaging in their learning right now so that they can come to the high school with as many credits as possible. It makes it extremely difficult when we start from working behind. However, recognize that if it is a struggle and things aren't going well, our counselors are here ready to be relentless in helping you. And as I said, we are wanting to partner. So please know that we will get there. A couple questions are coming in, so I'm going to come back to those. And then I have another question that I will comment on. Real quickly, do they need to take a foreign language in order to graduate? And also last semester, my son has PE. So let's start first with, do students need to take a foreign language in order to graduate? Who would like to speak to that, team?
I can.
Thank you.
They need to take a foreign language to graduate if their intention is to leave Lake Stevens High School's doors and go into a four-year university. It is an admissions requirement, or it can be a graduation requirement. However, on that chart, it shows that you can choose 2 years of a foreign language or 2 personal pathway choices. And for me, maybe my personal pathway choices are business and marketing. So it's not a black and white situation. You have some choice.
Thank you. And so speaking to the fact that my son has PE first quarter and health second quarter. So we recognize many of our CAV freshmen come in with that plan because they do take health at Cavallero. The question is, does this mean that they need to take a whole year of PE next year? And the key is it doesn't have to be next year, but yes, they have to take a whole year, and we hope that it is, right, Ms. Wickland, or whoever wants to speak to that? Thank you.
We encourage them to do it in their sophomore year. It does not mean they have to. But yes, your student will have to do 1 more year of PE before they're able to graduate.
Thank you. And if my daughter picks French as her elective, is she committed for the year once school starts, or can she stop after a half of year if she wants to change her elective?
And I'll take that one, but I'm going to go back and just harp on the PE one more time because I tell my students every year that I will force you to take PE your sophomore year. No, I won't, because I can't. There are other programs that are available to juniors and sophomores, or to students as they become juniors and sophomores. Other programs, other classes that are available to them that aren't going to leave room for PE in their schedule those years if they want to choose those opportunities. So that's one of the other reasons we encourage PE in 10th grade, is because it really does, you really do have room in your schedule then to take it.
And Ms. Ridley, you mean the junior and senior year, correct?
Yeah, what did I say?
You
Sophomore,
said junior and sophomore, yeah. So it's junior and senior year, what Ms. Ripley is trying to say is the more you can get focused on the PE earlier and accomplish
Yes.
that part of the requirement, you then will open up to a bigger, broader platter of options. Thank you.
Sorry. I'm already thinking of this year's sophomores and juniors as next year's juniors and seniors. It gets really confusing this time of year.
And
So you asked about French and whether or not you'd be locked in for the whole year. Pretty much, yes, we do schedule our electives for the full year. So that's why we're asking students to really take their time and look at these options and consider their choices. That's why we ask them for alternates in case we can't fit their primary choices into their schedule. But we ask them to put so much thought into this because once the school year starts, the expectation is that's your schedule and that's where you're going to go. Now, we do occasionally open up for schedule changes in January before the second semester starts, but typically that's not to get out of a year-long elective and switch to a semester-long elective. Please remember, we've made staffing choices for the year based on your child's selections for electives. So that helps us decide how many sections of each class we need and who's going to teach what and what kind of teachers we need to hire. So we can't have a lot of students changing their minds mid-year because we plan for this in advance. So it's negotiable. It's not encouraged. It's not promised. It's a case-by-case basis if we have to pull a student out of a year-long elective. Generally, we don't like to do that.
Thank you, Ms. Ribley. There's a lot of great questions. And on this one, I want to at least give it the honor of reading. Was the recent power outage counted as a snow day? Yes, it is correct that it was counted as a snow day because unfortunately, due to the loss of Wi-Fi and power, many kids couldn't actively engage in their learning on that day. The question around what is the last day of school, my apologies, because that has not been stated to me, so I don't have an answer to speak to that. That will be, however, communicated, I assume, very soon once we get through these winter months and hoping that we won't have to have a school closure again such as that. But I'm going to move right on. What is the entrepreneurship class about? Mr. Teeter, could you speak to that, please?
Of course, yeah. The entrepreneurship course is the second or the third course in the business and marketing program area. So students would have to have successfully passed business and marketing here at Lake Stevens High School. This course is really awesome. It's a course that helps students identify and build their own business plans, as well as come up with marketing projects. They also get to work with industry professionals from both small, medium, and large industries, and some from our area as well.
Very good. And the next question is a really good one as well, and it's an important one, and that is Ms. Wickland's going to share, does the foreign language have to be the same, or can they do Spanish and German?
For college admissions, it has to be the same language in consecutive years. So you have to take first year Spanish followed by second year Spanish. You can, for your own purposes, if you want to take a couple different languages, you are welcome to do that, and they'll count as general electives, and they'll still get you credit for high school. So the foreign language being the same really matters for college admissions.
Very good. Mr. Pearson, will you share with us again where our recording is and how to access the high school website?
Yeah, so this recording is actually will be housed on the front page. It'll be on the right side. If you scroll down to announcements on our page, I already have it listed. Just need to make the link hot once this is all done. Class of 2024 registration webinar. So about mid-page, right side, it'll be nice, big, and bold for you.
And it'll just take a few minutes for us to download it, but we will post it this evening before we finish. So I want to make sure that you're aware of that. It's been truly a pleasure. We had about 120 some odd people on the screen with us tonight. One thing I thought I would speak to, but not cause confusion for, and typically this is a big question, but we recognize that as freshmen, you might not be thinking about it yet, and that is community service hours. We want you to know that as freshmen, you could begin collecting your community service hours in the summer of your freshman year, leading into your sophomore school year. However, we recognize that accumulating community service hours right now to fulfill that graduation requirement has been pretty challenging during COVID. This has been probably one of the most pressing questions for our sophomores, juniors, and seniors right now. So with that being stated, it's possible that the Lake Stevens School District might be making some modifications to that graduation requirement in regards to the number of hours. I can't speak to it, but currently that would apply to our class of 2021, 2023, and 2022. So as it currently stands, our freshmen, incoming sophomores should plan for the regular 45 hours, 15 hours each year. And again, you can begin pursuing those in the summer of your freshman year. Again, we'd want to make sure that that is at a safe time where you know that you can obtain those hours and collect them in such a way that you don't have to feel concerned about COVID. And so that's up to you. There is some time to do that, but we also recognize that it's really an important thing to go ahead and get started once you can. And it sounds like there is the dreaded COVID question. The website shows a middle school hybrid learning plan and they may return to school mid-March. When can we expect to see the high school learning plan or in-person learning plan? Thank you for asking the dreaded question. And it can also be somewhat of an exciting question because while there's different emotions associated with returning to hybrid learning, it's also important to know that we can, when and if possible, plan safely for children to return to our school site. We want to be able to do that. I'm sorry, Michael, I won't be able to speak to a specific date. I do know the intended date would like to be Monday, April 12th after spring break, but that still has to go in front of our school board and there's a lot of intensive planning to take place. So that is not necessarily an identified date yet, it's an intended date. Again, I've got a couple other questions and I appreciate the people that have given us a little shout out and thank you. We really also appreciate you being here. We have a few more minutes, so I'm going to take these questions. How does, or if a student took foreign language in 8th grade? Not sure if the question got finished, but Ms. Ribley, you might know where that's going.
Yeah, so if your student took a high school level class in 7th or 8th grade, just contact your counselor at Cavallero, or when you get up to the high school, you have until graduation to add those credits. Some of our students would rather wait until later in their high school career before they decide if they want to add those credits. It's entirely up to you and what your plan is, but you have until graduation to add them. It's just a form you fill out.
Thank you. And Ms. Chilson, you can speak to how students find community service opportunities as well as how they log their community service hours. Thank you.
Yeah, so there are probably a lot of opportunities that you may already know about yourself if you are out and about in Lake Stevens or surrounding communities. But we do often have some clubs that can offer community service opportunities like after school, for example, and Interact, Key Club come to mind kind of first of all. So sometimes you can find them on campus. One of the things though is that in our Learning Commons area, we have the fabulous Mrs. Hopkins, Terry Hopkins, and she often has some ideas for students, and she is also the one who the forms go to. So I'm always happy to take students' community service forms to find the forms themselves, and I think that's a different question, but I'll just go ahead and address it also. You can find those on the planning guide and also just in general on our website. So there are some that require pre-approval, but if you already know that it is an approved community service organization, then it's just a form that you fill out showing like the dates, the time, the activity, and also you have to get, the students have to get signatures. And we do have a process for looking that over and checking it. And that's with Mrs. Hopkins. But if you give it to one of us, then we can certainly get it to Ms. Hopkins and she can track those hours. In Skyward, if you ever, you know, are like, how many hours do I actually have now? It's just a quick email to us. We're happy to check that for you anytime.
Thank you so much, Ms. Chilson, and thank you to all of our folks that joined us tonight. It's really important. I do have one other question. Do you anticipate that students will be on campus this next year or off-site? You know, I really wish I could answer that, but I'm telling you what, I don't have a magic wand, and I never would have guessed that we would have closed last year on the 13th of March, nor did I adventure to think that we'd still be in this distance learning model carried into this year. We sure hope that if it's safe and that we'll be prepared for you to be back on campus. And I can tell you that we are so looking forward to that. All of us went into education to not sit here and talk to a screen and interact with human beings in such a way that we don't get those tangible feel-good moments. So we look forward to you being Colts on our campus. I'm sorry, Colts moving onto our campus as Vikings. And we are hoping that we will be able to welcome you into this wonderful campus and this beautiful building, and just that you get to be here with us and get to know those faces. Here's the good news though. When you get to come to Lake Stevens High School, you'll learn about being the Viking way. And sophomores, soon to be sophomores, don't worry, because guess what? Your juniors and seniors won't know much about it either. We'll be learning along together, and it's a chance for us to get reacclimated and just to really make this absolutely the best place to be. So I love to say it's a great day to be a Viking. And without further ado, families, I just want to say thank you again for being here. Our team is ready to welcome you. Don't forget, Friday the 26th is the due date. And this Wednesday during 9:40 or 11:40, our counselors are ready to spend time with your kids. So again, thank you very much. We appreciate the questions. And if we could just give you a quick wave and send you off for the evening, make it great. And we look forward to seeing you soon.